John Dewey was born on October 20th, 1859, in Burlington, Vermont. He was the son of Archibald and Lucina Dewey. Archibald was a merchant who served the Union in the Civil War and was passionate for British literature. After the war, Archibald invested in a tobacco shop and became capable of affording his family comfortable living and financial stability. Lucina Dewey was the daughter of a farmer and a devout Calvinist. Dewey was the third of four sons, one whom died as an infant just before Dewey's birth. In his adolescent years, Dewey thrived in the Burlington public schools and enrolled in the University of Vermont at only 15. While at the University of Vermont, Dewey became influenced by Coleridge, Emerson, and T.H. Green, but the most important influence he met while there was a Professor Henry A.P. Torrey. Torrey was a philosophy professor who John would study independently with until graduation, where he graduated second in his class. The day after Dewey graduated, his cousin got him a teaching job at a seminary in Oil City, Pennsylvania. 2 years later, he lost this job because his cousin resigned as principal. Dewey did not let being laid off steer him away from education and went back to Vermont to teach at a private high school. In his free time, he read philosophy and partook in discussions with Torrey. These sessions with Torrey motivated Dewey to depart from teaching and to study philosophy and psychology at Johns Hopkins University. While he was at Johns Hopkins, Dewey studied and worked with George Sylvester Morris and G. Stanley Hall. Dewey received his doctorate in 1884 and was hired as an assistant professor at the University of Michigan, where he met his wife-to-be, Harriet Alice Chipman. In 1886, they remarried, and throughout their marriage they would have 6 children and adopt one. 2 years later, Dewey elected to leave Michigan for the University of Minnesota, where he could be a professor of philosophy. But after only a year, he left and went back to Michigan to teach philosophy full-time for 5 more years. In 1894, Dewey was the head of the philosophy department at the University of Chicago. He served as the director of its School of Education for 2 years before leaving in 1904, when he joined the Ivy League and became a professor at Columbia University. In 1930, 3 years after Harriet's death, Dewey retired from teaching with the title of Professor Emeritus. After retirement, Dewey became an active member in educational organizations like the New York Teacher Guild and the International League for Academic Freedom. As far as Dewey's role in education, he was a strong advocate of progressive educational reform, insofar as he believed that education should be based on learning through performing actions or doing. Throughout the 1920s, Dewey traveled the world lecturing about educational reform. He found that the Russians shared a concept with him, and that was that education should focus mainly on students' interactions with the present, but he did not dismiss the value of also learning from the past. As far as Dewey's educational approach, there are 3 key ideas associated with it that have impacted a number of reform movements in the U.S. education system, and they are individualism, readiness, and pragmatism. The first of these ideas is individualism, or the notion that it is up to the individual child, with guidance from parents and teachers, to make sense of his or her own experience. Dewey believed that teachers and parents were important to a student's success, but in the end, it all depends on the student. Readiness is the notion that a child will learn when he or she is ready to learn. Dewey had faith in the individual to pursue education when they are ready to do so. The rationale for this is that student achievement appears to be enhanced in countries where the content priorities at each grade level are made clear. And the last idea is pragmatism, or the notion that the worth of learning lies in its instrumental value. Dewey believed that children will want to learn if they can see the benefits of it, and it is the job of the individual as well as the parents and teachers to show the child the benefits of learning. John Dewey's significance for informal educators lies in a number of areas. First, his belief that education must engage within and enlarge experience has continued to be a significant strand in informal education practice. Dewey's exploration of thinking and reflection and the associated role of educators has continued to be an inspiration. His concern with interaction and environments for learning provided a continuing framework for practice. And lastly, his passion for democracy, for educating so that all may share in a common life, provides a strong rationale for practice in the associational settings in which informal educators work. Dewey is also known as the father of progressive education. He believed that in order for education to be effective, the students have to be invested in what they are learning. Dewey argued that curriculum should be relevant to students' lives, and if students could relate their schooling to the other aspects of their life, they would be more inclined to learn. Dewey believed every school, as he wrote in The School and Society, must become an embryonic community, active with types of occupations that reflect the life of the larger society and permeated throughout with the spirit of art, history, and science. When the school introduces and trains each child of society into membership within such a little community, saturating him with a spirit of service, and providing him with the instruments of effective self-direction, we shall have the deepest and best guarantee of a larger society which is worthy, lovely, and harmonious. Dewey's legacy lives on as America tries to incorporate a well-rounded education to create well-rounded individuals and citizens. He is often turned to in cases of educational reform, and it is almost impossible to discuss it without attaching his name to it.